This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CashFly.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Ratio. Take control of your watering with the Ratio Smart Sprinkler Controller. It's Wi-Fi enabled to allow instant access with a mobile app and has automatic watering schedules based on the latest weather forecast to save water and money. Go to ratio.com/twit to learn more. And by IT Pro TV. IT Pro TV is an easy, entertaining approach to online IT training. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the life of your account, go to itpro.tv/knowhow and use the code KNOWHOW30. Today on Know-How,
how to fix your apartment Wi-Fi, keep your quadcopter from drifting, waterproof your electronics, and 3D printing on the cheap.
welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Balacer.
I'm Brian Burnett.
And for the next 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to be showing you some of the things that we've been playing with so you can take them home and play with them on your own. Brian.
Yes.
It's a good day.
It is a good day. We've got a lot of things to cover.
We do. There's a lot of feedback. We haven't done feedback in a while. I know. I'm sorry. We promised we would do it more often, but I'm a liar, so that happens.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I think we're all used to that, though.
Well,
right?
I'm just trying to keep it tight.
Yeah. Who isn't, right?
Really, I know, right?
Everyone here is.
It's really. But we do want to look at some of the issues that you've been having with some of your technology. And that includes Wi-Fi, includes quadcopters that are drifting. Mm-hmm. It includes DIYers and makers who are looking at a way to waterproof their solder joints. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And of course, we need to give you a tip for 3D printing on the cheap. But not only that, Brian, we've got an unboxing today.
Yeah, so
you can't see that.
I can see that.
No, that's out there.
Okay. I look forward to this unboxing of things that I have not yet seen.
Yes. Yeah. So let's go ahead and kick it off. This first one is actually, it's a very good question because this is an issue that I know a lot of people are having.
Yes.
We've got a question from Brian Goosen, who, what does he ask, Brian?
Well, in his case, he just moved to a new apartment building that only has one internet option. The WAPs are already installed in the building, so my devices log into them and then go through a password-protected portal. This portal then logs the MAC addresses for each device, but here is the catch. I can only have 12 addresses linked to my account, and if I want to delete one to replace it, I have to call tech support. I know that is likely not very secure, and letting a guest use my internet is a pita. He's not talking about the bread there.
Nope.
I only plan to be here for about 6 months, so I don't want to sink a bunch of money into it, but for the right solution, I'll pony up.
This is actually a very good question because I get this a lot. There are apartment buildings, there are network administrators who for some reason think that a MAC address is a security function. It is totally not.
A MAC address is like a fingerprint for hardware, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Well, I mean, theoretically, if everybody followed the rules, it should be unique.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the bottom of any network device, like for example, this has a MAC address, MAC, that's Media Access Control. That's the combination of letters and numbers that a switch uses to figure out where a particular frame should be going. Mm-hmm. So when you send something to a particular device, it has the MAC address of that device. And it'll ask the switches, hey, are you connected to this? And if you are, can you pass me along the way?
Right.
Okay. Now, if every manufacturer did the right thing, and that is they got their allocation of MAC addresses, and then they made sure that every device only had a single MAC address, et cetera, that would be perfect. Unfortunately, it's really easy to spoof a MAC address.
Right.
I can make my laptop, I have software on here that I can make it look like any other device in the world because it's just a combination of letters and numbers that I can send every time I send a frame out. So that's not a good security feature. But okay, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this situation. In this situation, he's paying about $40 a month for what sounds like decent connectivity. He was saying like 40 megabits per second up, 30 megabits per second down.
Not too bad.
Not too bad at all. But when he logs into the portal, it logs the MAC address from which he just logged in. Mm-hmm. And when it fills up to 12, he can't do any more until he calls tech support and says, hey, can you remove some of the old ones?
Yeah, that's a pain.
Yeah. Well, and specifically, he said it's a pain if he has guests, because if he has guests, You don't want to give your guests your Wi-Fi because it means that you're going to have to call up their tech support and say, hey, this was a guest, can you remove it? And he was actually saying it takes like 10, 20 minutes to talk to the tech person and tell them to remove it.
So what's the solution?
Well, actually, thankfully, there's a very easy solution. There are plenty of high-end routers that will let you bridge from one radio to the other. So, for example, that Synology that we played with not too long ago.
I'm actually still using that.
It's
I love
a
that.
dual band. It has 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, right? So you could actually use the 2.4 gigahertz radio, bridge to that network, and then broadcast on the 5 gigahertz radio.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, but there are some people out there who are not going to want to spend that kind of money because that is a more expensive device.
Yeah, what is the Synology going? Isn't it like 200 and something?
Well, it's under 200 now, which is nice. 200? It's under 200. And there's a couple other. I think the Linksys 1900 AC will do it. A bunch of the Asus routers will do it. But I want to look at something really, really crazy, ridiculously cheap because
that seems fitting for this show.
That seems pretty fitting for me. What you need is something like this. This is a TP-Link TL-WR702N. This is a travel router. This thing is 15 bucks. And actually, the version I'm using is this. This is a TP-Link. This is like a 700 version. You can buy these online for like $7.
Nice.
Yeah. It's actually a very cool device. It's got power here and a network jack out here. But the cool thing about this is you can use it in several modes. And let me show you the mode that I want to use it in. I'm going to go ahead and plug it in. I've got it connected to this laptop here. And what I can do is I can set this device for bridging mode. So the default is that it would act like a router. It would take internet access in through the cable, and it would broadcast it out through the internal wireless, right? I want to reverse that. I want to take in internet access from the wireless and then push it back out through the Ethernet cable.
Ah, okay.
Luckily, this router has it built in. So what I'm going to do is
I see what you're doing here.
There we go. Log in. Okay, if you show my screen, this is the administration page for this particular device. And if you look at the working mode tab here, it gives me the option. Making bigger. It gives me the option of using it as an AP. And if it's an AP, it means I'm just going to act like an access point.
Right.
Give me Ethernet, and I broadcast it out. It could act as a router, which means there's a WAN side and a LAN side. It could act as a repeater, and this is what you would use if like you had weak signal and you just wanted to take a signal and repeat it. I never use that, by the way. It's a horrible, horrible feature.
Oh, okay.
It could be a bridge and a client. In this particular case, we want to use a bridge because we are going to bridge the network of the apartment building to the network that we're broadcasting from.
Right, okay.
Now, here's the cool thing. Check this out. So if I go into the wireless settings, right here, SSID to be bridged, I can click survey, and now the device itself is reporting all of the different networks that it has the ability to join. So for him, he would find the one that is connected to his apartment building, and then he would just click connect. Now, when he clicks connect, he will get a web page saying what your username and your password.
Right.
It will log this MAC address.
Right.
And then you're good. Now, I can take this access and I could put it out to the WAN port of a router, and I can connect as many devices to that router as possible because to the apartment building, it only sees one.
Right? That makes sense.
There we go.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's exactly what you want. Super cheap way to do it. Now, if you've got one of these, WR254G, or any router that's running DDWRT or OpenWRT, it will work just as well. These all have bridging modes. I will say, though, after having run this TP-Link for about 3 years, this is far more stable than this. I've never had to reboot one of these because it decided to tip over. I would have to reboot one of these like every 2-3 weeks.
I was going to say, I have a WRT that I've set in bridge mode, and I've had to unplug it and plug it in a few times.
The TP-Link is actually pretty good. Even when it does trip up, it recovers really well. It kind of does a soft reboot of itself just to make sure it's still alive.
And for $7, I mean, that's probably cheaper than even finding an old Linksys WRT.
Yep. It's not a bad deal at all. And my favorite travel router is still one of those little airport express thingies. I love those. Those were really, really nice because it does both 2.4 and 5 gig. This only does 2.4. But for price and for sheer forget about itness, this is pretty dang good.
If you forgot it in the hotel room, it wouldn't be the worst thing that happened to you.
I have a 10-pack of these at home. I've lost 2 of them at hotels. But this is how I do it. If I'm going to be at a hotel, I never use hotel wireless.
No.
I will I will take the internal connection of the hotel, plug it into here,
and then broadcast
and then
your signal.
firewall it off.
Yep.
There you go. That's not bad.
Very
So again, if you're looking for a way to do this elegantly, get yourself a high-end router. If you're looking for a way to do it cheaply, get one of these little teeny tiny TP links, especially if you're only going to be there for 6 months. Spend $7, be happy.
And a quick note about using one of these little guys, if you wanted to cast something to like a hotel TV and you have your Chromecast, you just connect to that and then you can send things to the TV and you don't have to worry about, you know, hardwiring.
That's the other thing I've done when I've gone on vacation. Like I brought in an Alexa last time, and the Alexa absolutely did not want to connect to the hotel wireless. So I just used this. I used this. I actually had two. I had one that bridged to the network, and then one that acted as a router, and then all my devices were connected to the one that was acting as a router, and it worked just fine.
Nice.
So it's a nice little device to have in your toolkit because it's so small, so cheap, so light.
Perfect. Cool. So I think we answered that question pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's all you're going to get out of us. But we do want to move on. We've got another question here, not about networking, but about quadcopters.
Yeah, this one comes from Mr. Rockenbach, and he asks, I have a quadcopter problem I need help with. Anyone have an idea why this is happening? Clean flight shows that the quadcopter is moving when it no longer is.
Aha, phantom movement. Unfortunately, this is a very common problem with flight controllers. Flight controllers, remember, they have a little IMU, an onboard device, a sensor that can detect motion and acceleration.
Right.
What you need to do is you need to tell that device, you need to tell that sensor, see, here's what it is. It's completely solid, it's not moving at all, but it still seems to be drifting.
Oh.
If you do not calibrate it properly,
then you get that issue?
You get that issue. It doesn't know exactly where it is, so it doesn't know whether or not it's turning, and you can pick up a little bit of a drift. Another way you can get this is if your quadcopter, your flight controller, is for any reason in an area with a lot of electromagnetic fields, a lot of electromagnetic energy.
So if you're hanging out like Bermuda Triangle or something like that?
Well, no, I mean, it doesn't have to be that. For example, this laptop right here will actually set off a flight controller. If I have a flight controller next to it, the magnets in the lid that when I close it tells the computer to go to sleep.
Yeah, well,
if I get close enough to that, it will actually screw up my calibration.
Okay,
yeah,
good to know.
So here's what we're gonna do. I do not have Clean Flight installed, but I have Base Flight. If you go back to my computer, I love using these firmwares because you can get them as apps for Chrome. Here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up Base Flight. Remember the 150 build? The 150 was actually using a flight controller that had Base Flight software installed on it, so we're connected. So you see, let me maximize this. There we go. You can see I get the sort of the same thing, except mine is done a little bit. You see that tiny bit of drift?
A little bit of, yeah, drift, yeah.
Let's see, I move it, and it might move a tiny bit more. What I want to do is I want to get rid of that. So I'm going to go ahead and click this. There's a little button here in Calibrate Accelerometer and Calibrate Magnetometer. I want to let each one of these run properly. So it starts the process, wait till it says it's finished. Do the same thing for the magnetometer. Here we go.
And then don't touch it, right?
Don't touch it, and wait till it says finished. And actually it's not just don't touch it, don't bring any devices near it. Because if you bring any devices near it, just the EM field that device generates might be enough to throw this thing off.
Okay.
Okay. What I would do is if you're having issues, go ahead and restart it. So clear out all the configurations and redo the calibration, both the accelerometer and the magnetometer. Hopefully that will clear it up. If it doesn't, there might be something else at play.
You might have to replace your controller?
You might have to replace the controller. I've seen controllers that have faulty parts, that have faulty magnetometers, faulty accelerometers. What you can do is disable those devices. In both Clean Flight and Base Flight, you have the ability to turn off sensors. Turn it off and see if like all the erroneous flight inputs go away. If it does, it's probably a bad part.
Have you ever seen one that can be like damaged in a crash, and that's then like the accelerometer is wonky.
I mean, they're solid state, so they are incredibly robust. But I mean, yeah, if you crash something hard enough, it's going to break.
You could break it.
Yeah, I don't care what it's made out of, unless it's adamantium. It's Wolverine's quadcopter, then yeah, maybe. But otherwise, no, it's
well, if that's the case, and you crash, you don't have to worry about anything.
You have other issues.
Yeah, exactly.
So give that a try, and if that doesn't work, go ahead and come on back, and we'll go at it again.
Sure, sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Now, when we come back, we've got an answer.
An answer? They gave us an answer?
No, we've
got
an
a question.
Answer.
Oh,
no,
okay.
Just in general.
Oh, all right.
An answer.
Just an answer.
But specifically,
That's
it's about
tease.
3D printing. We've had a lot of people who have been asking me about my favorite 3D printer.
Right.
I've been saying right now it's my Dremel Idea Builder. I have got a couple. I've got an XYZ DaVinci Junior. I've got a Rostock. I've got a RepRap. I've got a MakerBot. And I always default back to the Dremel. But people were saying, wait a minute, I want one that doesn't have filament that's incredibly expensive.
Right.
So we're going to show them a way to do that.
So without having to like hack the filament, the NFC chip on it,
no hacking involved.
No
hacking involved at all. It's just going to be a whole lot cheaper for you to get your 3D print on. But before we do that, you know what I want to do?
Thank a sponsor.
I do want to thank a sponsor. Specifically, I want to thank a sponsor who is helping me with a project I'm doing right now. You see, we've got some green geek stuff coming up on Know How. A couple of episodes about gardening, about growing. One of the issues that I have is that I'm away a lot. Normally with you.
Yes, you are away a lot.
Stop.
Stop. When you say it in that configuration, you are away a lot.
I depart from my residence a lot.
There we go. You're right.
For
and you
much time.
You have little green children that you'd like to take care of.
Yes, and unfortunately, my watering system right now,
not so good?
Not so good. What I need is a controller, a way to control my irrigation that's both smart, easy to use, and maybe a bit economical.
I feel like we have that right here.
I think we do. It's called Rachio. Now this is the Rachio, if you'd be my band of light. It looks like a really simple device. In fact, if you've ever used an irrigation controller, you kind of understand how this works. It's going to replace your current irrigation controller, and it just has this. It's a control panel. It allows you to hook up the solenoids for all of your watering zones, and this is like what you might expect out of a control panel inside one of those watering controllers. But here's the thing. If you've ever tried to use one of those, they're dumb. They're not smart at all.
No.
I mean, they follow a pre-programmed time. They don't necessarily stick to that time. They might have some external smarts if you hook up like one of those rain detectors, but even those get clogged up, they get jammed. I really wanted an irrigation controller that could bring me into the new century, and that's exactly what we get with the Rachio. Now, the Rachio Smart Sprinkler Controller lets you control your home irrigation system at any time, from anywhere. You simply swap out your current controller with a Rachio Smart Sprinkler Controller, you connect it to your Wi-Fi, and then you can adjust everything depending on the weather. You can stop stressing about manually unplugging your controller or changing the settings every time it rains. Rachio is simple to install, and it takes less than 30 minutes, and then you can connect to it using your iOS or your Android device. And it connects with popular smart home platforms like Nest, Amazon Alexa, Nexia Control4, iControl, and more. Imagine saying, hey Alexa, turn off the sprinklers because it's raining, and it will integrate. It will go ahead and talk to the Rachio, and the Rachio will say, all right, shut down all the zones. You could also run zones directly from the controller if you're one of these people who does like having a manual override. Now, you can customize your watering to your yard's needs. This is something that has been sorely missed. It's not simply turn on the sprinklers or turn off the sprinklers. You can use the smart app and the smart controller to say, hey, I'm going to be planting lavender, or I'm going to be planting basil, or I'm going to be planting whatever it might be, and it will suggest a watering schedule for me. It's really that smart. And with Rachio's weather intelligence, it automatically adjusts your schedules for weather events, so you don't have to worry about turning them off. You even get alerts when Rachio steps in to adjust schedules for rain, so you can determine whether or not the device is doing what you want it to do. Rachio is EPA WaterSense certified, and it's tested to the industry's highest standards. That means you can save up to 50%. 50%! Imagine that, especially if you lived in one of the water-parched areas of the country, on your outdoor watering bill, while helping you to save over 1 billion gallons of water nationwide every year. Check with your local water providers for rebates of up to 100% for the cost of a Rachio controller. And now they're made in the United States, and they're currently available at Rachio.com, Amazon, Home Depot, and Best Buy. If you're installing outdoors, you'll need their custom waterproof enclosure that protects your controller in all weather situations. But even without that, this is a controller without comparison. Enjoy your great yard without wasting water or money. Over 1 billion gallons of water saved and counting. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to try the Rachio Smart Sprinkler Controller. Just go to rachio.com/twit to learn more about the Rachio Smart Sprinkler Controller and to find out if you're eligible for a rebate from your water provider. Change the way that you water with Rachio at rachio.com/twit. That's Rachio, RACHIO.com/twit. And we thank Rachio for their support of Know-How. All right. 3D printing.
3D printing.
We're into it.
Yes.
We're totally into it.
We're so into it that we go through filament pretty quickly.
And we actually are going through 3D printers. So we've broken two Da Vinci Juniors. I broke a Dremel.
There might be a MakerBot broken.
Carson may have just busted
I'm not responsible for
a
that,
brand new MakerBot. But,
I hope not.
Yeah.
I hope we can fix that.
But one of the things that people have been asking about is the cost of filament, because there are a lot of companies.
That's how they get you.
Are trying to get you that way.
It's that same business model with the ink printers.
Yes, yes. But we won't let that stand, which is why we want to answer a question from Greg Orden. What does he ask, Brian?
Yes, I have a Dremel 3D Idea printer. It came with a ton of Dremel filament, but I am getting close to having to order more. Do I have to stick with the Dremel, or can I use other brands? And if so, what does everyone recommend?
Great question. I get that all the time, because if you read the Dremel instructions, it does say if you use any third party, because you have to use Dremel filament, otherwise you'll destroy the printer and you'll void the warranty.
Well, I mean, isn't it the case though that like they can't be responsible if you use really crummy filament and you break it?
Exactly.
Like, you can't come back to them and be like.
Which is true. That is very true. So there is a certain quality to Dremel filament, but Dremel filament typically costs twice as much as generic
Go
filament.
figure, right?
Yeah. Well, what I would do is I would go ahead and I would use, because it has no, it's not proprietary. There is no chip like there is in the Da Vinci Junior that keeps you from using non-standard filament. The biggest concern that people have is it won't fit into the slot, because the slot is designed for Dremel spools.
Yeah.
But you can also get spools that were designed for the Dreamforge, and it will fit just fine. I'm going to suggest something else. I like a filament maker called Hatchbox. Actually, yeah, there we go. Here's just a little example of all the different types of Hatchbox filament that you can buy. If you scroll down that list, Kara, I mean, there's every kind of color, there's every kind of texture, and you really are kind of unlimited by what you want to do. In fact, here, if you come to the table, here's some of my my favorite. This one is a red filament. These are all 1 kilogram. It's about 333 meters of filament. This is a lot of filament. This is more than twice as much as you would get inside of one of the branded Dremel rolls, but it costs the same.
But will this roll fit into a Dremel printer?
No, which is the second part of this answer. But let's look at some of the ones that I really like. So that's red. This one is purple. Got to have a little bit of the purple. Lavender. Yeah. Got to have the standard black. There's so many of the projects that I use that are standard black. And this is one of my personal favorites right now. I played with this a lot. This is blue, but this is glowing blue. So this glows in the dark.
Oh, awesome.
I've been using UV LEDs inside of this, and the UV sets off the glowing. It's incredible.
Neat.
It's so much fun. It's a bit more expensive. I mean, you can expect to pay somewhere between $22 and $30 for one of these spools.
Pretty good, though.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And then there's also stuff like this. So this is a specialty filament. This gives it the copper color.
Oh, neat.
So if, I was thinking about using this for the steampunk goggles to get kind of
right, to get that brass look.
Yeah. And the coolest thing about this is there actually is copper particles embedded in here.
Whoa.
So if you weather it, you'll get that little green tint going on.
Oh, wow. So isn't that oxidation or something?
Which, that's what you want. That's the look I'm looking for.
You could do like a little Statue of Liberty or something.
Precisely. Or I could do something that looks like old steampunk goggles, which is
where you're going.
That's what I'm going for. Now, as you mentioned, these won't actually fit inside the printer.
Yeah, because the spool that one is on is different. This one's different. So how would you mount these in your machine?
Okay, so 2 ways to do it. The first way is the super cheap. I used to do it. I don't do it anymore, and that's just to rewind.
Does that take a long time?
No, not really, because I would just put it on a rack. So I would put one of these spools on the rack. I would take the old spool, insert one bit, and I actually set up a little motor, and it would just, I would hit the button, and it would just wind.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to watch it, otherwise sometimes it like jumps off the track, and it just... The issue with doing that, though, is every time you unwind that filament, you're kind of stressing it a little bit. And if you stress it, there's a possibility it will snap.
Yeah. And then you come back and there's just
the print had just been going. It's got no filament in it. That's no bueno. The other issue is doing it that way opens it up to contamination. The worst thing that you can get on filament is like the grease from your hands.
Ew. Yeah, I noticed that all these are like vacuum sealed.
Yep.
And they have a little moisture packet thing.
That's a little desiccant in there. Yeah, keep them, never open up a filament pack until you're ready to use it. When it's like this, it's nice and protected. As long as you keep it in the box. Keep it away from humidity, keep it away from direct sunlight.
And only open it when you're about to use it.
You open it when you're about to use it. In fact, I save all those desiccant packs. I heat them up so that they're active again. And then if I have a spool that I don't use all of it, I put it into a Ziploc bag, I vacuum seal it, and I throw a bunch of those desiccants in there just to preserve it. Because otherwise you'll find your filaments tend to get brittle, and when they get brittle, they just start snapping.
Right, yeah. And that's the worst feeling when you come back to your 3D printer and it's the head is helplessly going around, but there's nothing, it's not touching anything.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Well, does it please you to see me suffer?
Now, if you're not going to rewind, which I would suggest you don't do it, there is a very super simple and very inexpensive way to do this, and that's with spool. So this is a mount rack. This is a 2-spool. This allows you to put up to 2 different spools of filament, and then you can either tabletop mount it, or you could wall mount it, or if you'll go ahead and play that B-roll I've got, Kara, this is what I've got set up inside my lab. So in my lab, I've got my Dremel Idea Maker, and then I've got that. So it attaches to the top of this baker's rack.
Oh.
And yeah, it's super easy to load. It's super easy to unload, and that's the coolest thing. I don't have to do any rewinding. It's very easy on the filament. So it's not tugging it, it's not pushing it through corners. It just basically draws it straight down into the print head. Now, not all of us are going to have a setup like this where you can attach it to a rack above the printer. But if your printer is near a wall, you can also mount this rack on a wall.
Yeah.
You can mount it on a board and stand it up behind the printer, whatever you want to do.
You probably could 3D print something that would do this, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so if you do have a 3D printer that doesn't have like an NFC counter like the DaVinci Junior does, and it's PLA or ABS, all you need to do is make sure you get the right type of filament. And for example, for my Dremel, it's 1.75 millimeter, and it's PLA.
PLA, yeah. Pretty common.
Yeah, check your specs, make sure you have the diameter, because there's also 3 millimeter for the larger printers, and there's also printers that can print in ABS. Well, I only do PLA because I don't like the toxic smell.
Yeah.
But you now have an easy way for you to print on the cheap.
Perfect. Yeah, that's awesome.
Right? I like that. All right, I think we've got time for one more.
All right. This one's about waterproofing. This one comes from Robert Hafer. I'm working on putting a LED lights in the basin of a fountain. The waterproof LED light strip came with leads that are 2 inches long. Any advice on making a waterproof splice?
I'm glad you asked, because we do have a way for you to do this. Now, this is heat shrink.
Yes.
Now, the whole idea behind heat shrink is that I can solder something together, and then I can take a length of this heat shrink and a heat source.
Yep.
And if you actually just go to the side here.
Any opportunity for you to use the blowtorch.
Yeah, right? I love the blowtorch. So it's heat sensitive. So when I do this, you'll notice that it just shrinks up. Ooh. And what you can do is, if you wrap this around the wire that you're soldering, it gives you a nice strong connection. So it's not just the solder joint that's holding those 2 wires together.
Right.
This can actually pick up quite a bit of the weight.
Yeah.
Now, for most applications, this is water resistant, not waterproof. I wouldn't want to put something that's been heat shrunk with this underwater. But like if you splashed it, it should be just fine. There is enough adhesion inside the inner wall of this heat shrink pipe that it should hold it to both ends of the insulation.
Okay, cool.
Unfortunately, that's not what Robert asked for.
Right, because he has a connector that he wants waterproof, a splice, or what is he? He wants.
Yeah, he wants to solder and then put it underwater. So he's got a pump, right? And yeah,
so it's completely submerged, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, even if it's not, anything that's going to go near the water, I would design it so that it can be submerged. Because what you don't want is, you don't want to use regular heat shrink tubing, and then like the wire slips into the water, or the water level comes up to the wire, because then, you got issues. If it's AC, it's going to short out immediately. If it's DC, the worst case is not that it shorts out. The worst case is that you start getting voltage in places where there shouldn't be voltage.
Yeah, that could be dangerous.
You can get electrolysis. You've got two wires, one ground and one positive, and they'll start separating water, H2O, into hydrogen and oxygen. You'll see little bubbles come off. That's also not good.
So don't stick your hand in there if you see that.
No. I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but what's happening is your wires are corroding.
Oh.
Yeah, that's bad. Luckily, we've got a super simple way for you to do it, and that is, instead of using this kind of heat shrink, you use this kind of heat shrink. If you go to the overhead view here, Kara, this is dual wall adhesive heat shrink. It looks almost exactly.
Doesn't look anything.
Yeah,
different.
it looks exactly the same, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to look exactly the same. Here's the difference. Inside each of these heat shrink tubes, there's a heat activated adhesive.
Oh yeah, it's really shiny.
It's super shiny. Now it's not sticky. I can put things into this tube, and I can't drag out any adhesive. You won't feel any of that.
No.
It only gets sticky once it starts getting hot.
Right.
It gets moist, it gets wet.
That's
and
typical.
Then it sticks to things.
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense.
Okay, so and then what I can do is when I heat shrink one of these lengths,
Right.
that adhesive is going to clamp down on either end of that splice. And along with the pressure that's provided by the shrunken heat shrink tubing,
Right.
that adhesive will give you a nice solid lock. And
And
that
hold it
is
together.
waterproof.
Yeah.
That is absolutely waterproof.
Nice.
Yeah. Now,
Do you have to use like a certain gauge wire? Like,
Nope.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on what size.
I will say this. This works much better with wires that have smooth insulation than the ones that have like ribbed insulation.
Oh, okay.
You've seen those, right?
I don't think I have.
Well, they have like a barrel look to the outer insulation.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
irregular. It will work on that. It's not as good as if the wire insulation is dead smooth and round.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So pick yourself up a pack of this. We put the link inside the show notes. It's really inexpensive. I got this entire box for $14. I don't use it all the time, but again, anytime I'm creating a project that's going to be anywhere near water, this is how I insulate my
I'd almost
solars.
want to use some of this on like quadcopter projects and stuff
Yeah?
too, because I mean there have been cases where I've flown close to water. I mean there's other electronics that would get destroyed, but like a sprinkler, I dropped some water on a wire or something like that.
Yeah, and again, not so expensive. I know some people who will use this exclusively, like all of their heat shrink
Just that.
is the dual wall heat shrink. I'm not big on that just because if I don't need to, I don't want to add a layer of adhesive in case I have to get back into the project later on. That stuff is really gummy.
Oh,
yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that. I would just cut the wires and just.
Well, that's what I do right now. If I make a bad splice, I'll cut away the heat shrink and then I can desolder the wires. When you seal it with this,
it's done.
it's there. Yeah,
and then you have to re-strip the wires.
precisely.
And stuff. Yeah,
precisely.
I see.
Yeah. So it's there. Whether or not you want to use it, that's up to you.
Cool.
Yeah. When we come back, Brian, you know what I want to do? I want to give the audience a little treat.
What's that?
We've got a series of episodes coming up, The Green Geek,
Yes.
where we're going to start looking at gardening techniques, but
Because
not your dad's gardening.
Well, I would say like neither of us are probably. I'm not at least
I'm
very good
definitely
at
not.
keeping plants alive.
I'm
I either
horrible.
care too much or I care too little. But if I can use technology to kind of help me, keep the plants alive, I think that'll work.
Yeah, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to take a topic that both of us were very not experts in. I mean, we're not experts in anything, but
Right.
we both have actively avoided anything having to do with chlorophyll, photosynthesis, and planting because we've got black thumbs.
Absolutely.
You grow a bonsai, right?
I have a bonsai tree and it's doing all right.
Well, it's going to look fabulous once we're done with this segment. We're going to take you through some of the techniques, through some of the science, because remember, botany is one of the first sciences, and farming is one of the first engineering that we've ever developed.
I
as a
learned that
civilization.
from Mark Watney,
There you
the
go.
astronaut.
Yes, you can grow your food in your poop.
If you haven't seen The Martian, you have
Potatoes.
no idea what we're talking about.
If you have,
You do.
that was hilarious.
Haha.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's hilarious.
But we do want to show you the technology side, the science side, and the engineering side, and I think we've actually got a couple of fun projects lined up.
Is that what's in those boxes, Padre?
What boxes? I don't know what you're talking about.
Why won't you acknowledge the boxes?
They don't exist until we introduce them.
Fine.
But before we introduce them, let's go ahead and thank the second sponsor. We love our sponsors here on Know How. We love it when our sponsors can throw some knowledge into our audience.
Absolutely,
we love that. It's part of our DNA. It's part of who we are, which is why I'm so happy to have IT Pro TV as a sponsor of Know How. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot on one of my other shows, This Week in Enterprise Tech, is how do I break into IT?
I've thought about that too.
It seems so complicated, right? You sit through one of my shows and you're falling asleep, and then you wake up and you go, I'm never going to learn that.
Well, it's like all your shows.
That's all my shows, pretty much.
Oh, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Not our show.
Well, you know who doesn't put you to sleep? IT Pro TV, because they understand that the best way for you to learn, in this case, IT skills, is to give you dynamic, entertaining, wonderful content that you can access from anywhere, anytime, to look up anything. Now, IT Pro TV has over 1,000 hours of content and more than 30 hours that are added every week. You can stream their courses live and on demand worldwide to your Chromecast, your Roku, your Amazon Fire TV, your Apple TV, or your PC. You have the freedom to learn at your own pace and on the go with your mobile device. They are now the first IT video provider with courses for sale through Amazon Video Direct. That's just another way for you to try out what they have. They've got 60 video courses available now and more being added in the coming weeks. Now, while those subscriptions are still the best value, we, and especially I am personally excited to see IT Pro TV on Amazon because it extends their reach. One of my favorite features is the fact that they provide transcripts for all of their courses. That lets you follow from start to finish or jump to any part of a video. Now, if you're buying this subscription because you want to learn about IT, that's one way. But if you are an IT professional and you're just looking to use IT Pro TV as a way to refresh your skills or help you as a reference, those transcripts are absolutely invaluable because rather than watching an entire video or series of videos, I can jump precisely to the moment that addresses the problem that I'm having. That's probably one of my favorite features about IT Pro TV. They've also got 100+ step-by-step virtual machines and transcender practice exams. It's a $109 value. And their course topics will include things like Linux Plus, SSH, Wireshark, Python programming, accelerated CCENT, CCNA, security for Cisco, VCP, which is VMware, CEH version 9, and more. They recently completed CISA. It's a globally recognized certification in the field of audit, control, and security of information systems with Cybex author Brian O'Hara. You can take advantage of their low monthly subscription prices and no hassle cancellation policies. And by no hassle, I really mean no hassle. This is not one of those runarounds where you have to talk to 15 different people just to cancel your subscription. You go on the website and you say, no, I don't need you anymore. IT Pro TV is sorry to see you go, but they're not going to try to trick you into staying. Now, if you're currently signed up for an enterprise account with an IT Pro TV competitor, and if they start to increase your rates, well, IT Pro TV will match your previous year's pricing on that account so that you and your team can learn at an affordable rate. IT Pro TV's clients include Harvard, MIT, UCSD, Stanford, and more. If they trust IT Pro TV, don't you think you should too? Check out itpro.tv/knowhow and upgrade your brain with the most popular IT certifications available. Premium subscriptions are normally $57 a month or $570 per year, but we have a special offer. Try it free for 7 days when you sign up using our code KNOWHOW30 to check out their courses, live stream, and more. You'll also receive 30% off the lifetime of your account. That's less than $40 per month or $399 for the entire year. Just visit itpro.tv/knowhow. That's itpro.tv/knowhow. Use the code KNOWHOW30 and try it free for 7 days. Plus, save 30% off the life of your account. We thank IT Pro TV for their support of Know How. All right, Brian. It's time to talk about that thing that does not exist until we bring it onto the show.
Like most things, they don't exist until I acknowledge them. Yeah.
Exactly. That's sort of the know-how-centric view of the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But before we bring the boxes out, we thought maybe we should take a look at the first time we saw this technology. It was last year. There were a few of us, you, myself, Carly. We were at a PepCon event in San Francisco.
I remember
and we stopped by the Miracle Grow table because I saw in the middle of all this blinky, shiny, wonderful technology
something green.
Something green. And I thought, what is that doing here? So without further ado, this is the Aero Garden. Now, if you're like me, you're good at tech, you're horrible at gardening, which is why we're here at the Holiday Spectacular in San Francisco taking a look at the Aero Gardens from AeroGrow. Now, this is a way to combine your love of technology with, well, your desire to grow something living. I'm speaking with Tigran from AeroGrow, who's going to explain what they might be able to do for techies who want a green thumb. Tigran, what gave you the idea of making an automated grow system?
Well, not everybody can grow outside, and not everybody has a space to grow outside. So we decided to come up with the Aero Garden. And the Aero Garden uses no soil, it's soil-free, and it just uses water. So if you want to see right here, it has all the roots right there and in water, and you can grow anything that grows above the land. So, and they come in these little seed pods, and they come pre-seeded already with peat moss. If you'd like, you can get your own seeds and grow whatever you'd like.
I love this approach. It's a lot like Keurig for gardening. You get the pod that you want, you put it into your slot, and you're good to go. Now, what I like about these systems is they're not just a self-contained grow light. You also have a circulation system there to make sure that the nutrients get evenly distributed between all the pods. Tell me, what are the different levels that they can get? Because I know you start all the way down at $70 for the smallest unit. How advanced and complicated can they get?
They really don't get any complicated than this. They come, you can customize everything, and with the smaller ones, you literally just fill up the water and put in the pods and add your nutrients, and that's it. And the same thing with the bigger ones, except for you get to customize when you want the lights to come on and everything.
Tigran, I have to say, I have tried growing things before, and I have had apps and little scales to help me measure out nutrients. I have managed to kill absolutely everything. Are you telling me that if I pick up one of these Aero Gardens, I might actually be able to grow some herbs that don't look like they were grown in the desert?
Yes, I can guarantee you can grow.
If they want to find out more about the Aero Garden line, about what they have from AeroGrow, where can they go and when will these be available?
aerogarden.com, and they will be out for this Christmas season.
Father Robert Ballas here, taking a look at the latest and the greatest in growing technology. And if you want to grow a garden, you probably should make it an Aero Garden. Now, anything that can combine technology with something I'm trying to learn,
yes,
that I like.
Totally, yeah. And it's a pretty neat little kit.
This is the Aero Garden Harvest, and actually we've got a link for this. If you want to get one today, it's actually not that expensive. It's $112, and this is a complete kit. It's the first link that was on the page.
Oh.
There we go. There we go. So it's only $112. And inside this kit is pretty much everything you need to get up and running to have a small garden, like on a countertop, on your desktop, next to your computer.
This is about the size of like a coffee pot.
Exactly. Now check this out. So inside the box, of course, you've got all this wonderful packaging, very, very earthy.
You got useless instructions. We never look at the instructions.
Please, real men don't look at instructions.
Exactly.
You just throw the packaging and go, there, I got this. This is probably not going to be complicated at all to assemble. So the first thing you're going to notice is it's got this grow light. This is actually a 20-watt LED lighting system. If you look on the side here, Kara, there's actually, there we go. There's actually 100 of these full spectrum LED grow lights that add up to 20 watts. So that's going to give you both red, blue. Those are the colors that you really need. And I think there's also a UV and an IR LED on this to help get rid of pests and fungus and disease.
Right.
Now this base station is where you're going to put all your plants. And the cool thing about this is they use pods. So think of it as like a Keurig, but for plants.
It seems like it'd be a lot less wasteful than a Keurig. You know?
Yeah. And then the idea is this reservoir, this is going to hold all of your nutrients. It's going to hold the water. Now remember, we are going to be growing hydroponically here. There's no soil. There's a little bit of media that helps the seed to take root and then to hold it there. But everything else is going to be done just with the water. So the water is going to be transporting all the nutrients. There's a little pump in the bottom here. And what that pump will do is it'll allow it to circulate the water. It uses a little carbon scrubber to take some of the particulates out. And then every one of the pods that you get will have its little nutrient pack. And that pod will sustain it for the entire lifetime.
So you don't even need to like add anything to the water?
No, this is totally set to go.
Nice.
And now here's my favorite part. My favorite part is when you are ready to grow, all you have to do is choose what kind of crops you want. And they sent us this. Oop,
and they're
gone.
dead.
Sorry about that.
See, we knew we weren't good with plants.
So they sent me international basil.
Ooh,
basil. And they sent me heirloom salad greens. Now, the cool thing about this, check this out. So we take out one of these pods, and this is what they look like.
It is like a little Keurig pod.
It is. So inside here, we've got a little bit, there's a sponge. It's like a rock wool peat type material. There's no nutrient value there. All it's doing is it's holding the roots in. That's going to expand when it hits the water. And then they also have these. These are absolutely important if you're growing. It's a humidity dome.
Oh, for when it first gets started?
When it first gets started, you have to remember, when something germinates from seed, those first couple of days, it has very few roots. There's not really enough roots to intake, so it's going to be counting on a lot of the ambient humidity. So seedlings and early plants are going to love high humidity. So what you can do is you just do that, and it becomes a humidity dome.
Oh, it's so cute.
It's so cute. And then you put this in here. Now this will allow you to put up to 6 pods at any given time. And then you just put this up here, you plug this in, fill it up with water. You can add this, which is what they give you, this liquid plant food for these particular pods. So again, this is all a self-contained unit. And then you just set here on the controls like what kind of lighting are you going to be. Now this is important because a lot of plants will use light sensitivity to determine if they're in vegetative or flowering growth.
Oh,
so
okay.
if a plant gets more than 12 hours of daylight a day, so that's the longer parts of the year, it still thinks it's in vegetative. So it's just going to work on building up the bulk of the plant. Once I start giving it less light, specifically once I drop below 12 hours of light a day, it will switch into flowering. And that's when I start getting...
Because it's like fall?
It's fall, right. That's, but again, you have to check with the plant because every plant's slightly different. But as a rule of thumb, that's how we do indoor growing. When we want something to flower, we change it up so that it's getting more darkness so that it switches to that.
That's really neat.
Yeah, this is super simple. I can play with my lights. I can tell it if I want veggies. Herbs are slightly different. I'm going to want more lights for herbs, or 24 hours. And then I can also tell it to add nutrients. This will actually let me know when I've depleted the nutrients inside of this tub.
Okay.
So if you wanted sort of an idiot-proof, foolproof way to grow greens, this is a fun way to do it. And you know, it's cheaper to go to the store. And it would be more efficient for you to grow outdoors if you had a little garden. But there's something that's kind of cool about having something on your desk that just grows.
Self-contained little, it's almost like a pet.
It is.
Like you watch it grow and stuff. But the only question I have is, can you keep these out in the air without them... any problems?
It's like any other seed. And most seeds, they're fine until they germinate. Once they germinate, they're delicate.
Right.
But when they're in seed form, like that is, I mean, just don't burn it.
Right. So that's cool.
Yeah. What we're going to be doing with this actually is we're going to be setting this up next week on next week's episode, and then we're just going to leave it in the back so that you're going to see every episode as our crops come in.
Start growing, and then eventually we'll eat them on the show.
Well, it's salad, so no, I won't do that.
What?
I mean, I'll feed it to something that I kill and then eat a hamburger. I have my limits, man. I have my limits.
You draw the line.
I do.
Yeah.
But that's not the only unboxing. This is cool. I like the Harvest. It is a simple machine. This is probably something that I'm going to get for my father because I could see him using this to start something indoors and then maybe take it outdoors, like when it cools down in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah, I could totally see that.
Now, this is good. This is a nice device, and I'm really looking forward to reviewing it. But the one that I really, really enjoy is this. They didn't just send me one.
The Bounty Elite?
Sent me two. This is the Bounty Elite. If you go ahead and show the link for this, Kara, this is considerably more expensive. It's a $340 machine versus a $100+ machine.
It's crazy.
But for that, you get quite a bit more. This thing, here, just go to the overhead shot right now. This is not 20 watts with 100 lights. This is 45 watts with 300 full spectrum lights. And the other one had a travel. You can make the arm go up and down up to 12 inches. This one will go up to 2 feet.
Wow.
So you can get much bigger crops in here, much more. If you go ahead and hold on to that.
It's like bigger than a crock pot.
It is. And construction on this, I mean, there's a reason why it's the high-end model. It feels nicer. It's got a more...
Oh, it's got like a stainless steel top.
Precisely.
Yeah, it's not made all out of plastic.
Right. And then look at the base unit. So the base unit, instead of 6, you can hold 7. Oh, sorry. 9. You can hold 9. You get 9 different spots, so you can grow a whole lot more crops. And actually, if I can get, I'm having trouble with plastic, Brian. I'm not very good.
It's because you're trying to be too delicate.
Okay, sorry about that, Miracle-Gro. My bad. And again, it's a higher quality product. You've got metal finishing. It uses the same concept. Inside of here, you're going to find a little pump that circulates the water. It keeps it fresh. It also bubbles it because it's very important to bubble it because otherwise,
so like aerates it.
Yeah, otherwise the water goes stagnant and that's bad. Because believe it or not, the roots actually need oxygen. If they don't get oxygen, they die. They starve. They choke. Which is why overwatering is so bad. Not because it's too much water, but because you're depriving the roots of oxygen.
Because in soil, it's porous enough that like air circulates through and stuff, but in just water, if it's staying stagnant.
Precisely. I mean, there is dissolved oxygen in water that roots can access. But if you let it sit and you don't bubble it, that oxygen gets all used up and then you're in trouble.
Interesting.
Right. But look at this display. This is cool. This is actually a touch screen.
Wow.
And not only can you use this to set things like what am I growing, how much light do I want, this will actually give you hints on how you grow that particular crop. So you say, hey, I'm growing basil. Right. And it will say, okay, you're going to want this, this, this. It actually teaches you how to grow it.
Yeah, and I definitely need that.
Yeah, yeah. And so these are the 2 devices that we're going to be playing with. Because if we're going to be teaching you how to grow things, we should also show you a quick way. If there are any of you who just want to have some quick greens next to your computer, great way to do it.
Yeah, well, like where I live, I don't have a garden, so the only way I'd be able to grow something is indoors. And yeah, that's neat. Or if you live in a place like Arizona or Las Vegas or something, like you would have to keep it indoors to keep it alive.
You absolutely would. Yeah, like actually the reason why I really want to get these is because my dad needs one. He keeps trying to grow plants outdoors. It's 124 degrees outside of his house right now. I'm like, hey, nothing's growing in that. He's like, I've got shade. I'm like, the air is 124 degrees. The sun makes it like 5,000 degrees. But you know, something like this, again, he could grow it indoors during the summer, up to 2 feet, and then he could transplant it outdoors when he's ready to actually make it right. Now, here's the cool thing. The pods, so these pods, not only can you buy them pre-made, and they run between $15 and $20 for a set of 6 to 9 of these things, but you can also get empty pods. So if there are seeds that you want to grow that are not contained here, like I could go down to the seed bank on the corner and get some heirloom type varieties.
Yeah, tomatoes or something.
Just drop it in and grow it like normal.
So they'll send you the little pod that has like sod or whatever.
They call it a sponge. I'm pretty sure it's rock wool.
Ah, okay. Yeah. You just drop the seed in, huh?
Just drop the seed in. You could play with nutrients a tiny bit. That's why I like this. I want to see how far I can take this technology. From what I've heard, Miracle-Gro actually did a really good job with these devices.
Nice.
And they created something that can make inexperienced growers grow something that they can actually be happy with.
Right, and then learn along the way too. So I like that.
Speaking of learning, remember, next week we're going to be setting up one of these bad boys, and then in the month of July, we are starting up Grow How, or the Green Geek, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be showing you on the maker side how to build things like drip irrigation systems and LED grow lights and ventilation systems. And then on the DIY side of the show, those are the Mondays, we're going to be showing you things like, well, how do you pick your soil? How do you pick your pots? How do you pick a grow light? How do you pick a tent, an enclosure? We're going to have a lot of fun over the next 2 or so months. We're going to be mixing in other types of topics, but I want to get to the end of Grow How and say, we can take you from seed to harvest, and you'll enjoy it.
You might not eat it, but you'll enjoy it.
You may not eat it,
yeah,
but you'll enjoy it. I know this is a lot of information, so we're going to make it easier for you to access everything we just did. Just go to our show page, which, Brian, I always forget where that is.
That's okay, I'll remind you. It's at twit.tv/KH, and like Padre said, that's where you'll find all the show notes for the links to the things that we talked about, and past episodes and ways to download or subscribe. But if you wanted to ask us questions, or ask a community of questions, or show off your project, you'd want to go to Google+.
Yeah, do that, because not only is it a place for you to sort of connect with what we're doing, but once you get approved, because there is approval required, I'm sorry, but we had to keep out the spammers and the cam girls, but it's a fantastic place if you're a doob to ask questions. They're very friendly. There's over 10,000 members who will give you suggestions for any project you might be having a problem with, or they might give you an idea for a project to create. Right. If you're an expert, please join, because and I believe this deeply, this is not just something that I want to throw in there. If you are a maker, if you've been doing this for a while, you are part of a bigger movement. You're part of the maker movement. And I remember in the group, people actually asked, what does it mean to be a maker? Because it seems like everyone's a maker these days.
Right.
Well, for me, it's not skill. It's not the number of projects that you've done. Being a maker means you understand that once you start getting knowledge, it's your responsibility to share that knowledge.
Yes.
If you don't do it, you're not a maker. You're just a guy who tinkers and tries to make stuff for yourself.
Yeah, and it's also kind of like a hive mind thing.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone can know everything about a certain thing, but if we
collectively,
yeah, we can help each other out.
Collectively, we keep it tight.
That's right. So tight. And speaking of keeping things tight, if you want to see what we tweet about, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at cranky_hippo.
And I am at canceled show. No, I'm twitter.com/PadreSJ. That's the best place to suggest topics for future shows and also to find out what we're going to do when we're not on the set. Actually, you're heading down to Los Angeles. I'm assuming you're going to give us some pics.
There'll be pics. I'm filming a friend's wedding, so.
And I'll be heading down to Los Angeles in about a month for some concert fun, and I'll send pics. So,
nice.
Yeah. You know who else is part of this show? Probably the most important part of the show, actually.
Is it our future seedlings?
No. I'm thinking of someone who is really important.
Oh, right.
Alex.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, that guy.
No, it's RTD, Kara Cole. Kara Cole, I know you don't have a camera on yourself, but can you say hello to the know-how, the know-it-alls?
Hello, know-it-alls.
That's Kara Cole.
She's so enthusiastic. That's why I'm glad to have her on the show.
I love know-how.
Actually, when we go out, because when he's my field producer, Kara is often my camera person, and she's fantastic. She's got a great attitude.
She does.
We love having her behind that console, even though sometimes she presses the wrong button.
On purpose.
On purpose.
Always on purpose.
They deserve it.
Yeah, and you know what she said about stabbing people? She said that's always on purpose, too. So you better watch out.
Well, she named her knife Kindness, so now she can kill people with kindness.
I'm from Vallejo.
Yeah, Vallejo, you have to carry a knife.
Yeah.
Petaluma, you guys don't do that here?
No, we just get stabbed.
We just get stabbed.
Oh, that makes sense.
Until the next time we get stabbed, I'm Father Robert Balacer.
And I'm Brian Burnett.
And now that you know how,
go grow it.